Hey, good evening, folks. Welcome to the 6 o'clock news on sbynews.com. Let's get right into it. I had a great weekend last weekend. I hope you did as well. I enjoyed the weather. It was beautiful. Perfect bike riding weather. Hot to stand still, but just gorgeous riding down the road. Hope you guys got out too. Listen, let's get right into some topics here today. I want to talk about Mary Ashonti, the president of the NAACP, Rudy Kane, Jim Finneran, and Rick Pollitt. Combine them all together, what do you get? Racism. You get race cards. You get a letter in the Daily Times about, oh, poor Jim Finneran. I mean, you know, here they are furloughing people. Here they are cutting almost $1 million out of the budget for the sheriff's department. Are you people truly trying to tell me that the African American community is more interested in Jim Finneran keeping his job because an African American created the position numerous years ago, yet it was filled by an African American for years? He lost his job, got fired, almost locked up in jail for what he did, and then the position sat open for years on end until the county executive came in and they put Jim Finneran in that position. So it's kind of mind-boggling how you, Rudy Kane, and you, Mary Ashonti, didn't complain all those years while the seat was empty, didn't complain when a white Irishman comes in and fills the position, but now you want to play the race card. But are you telling me that the African American community doesn't care about the roads being improved, doesn't care about police furloughs, doesn't care about putting more police officers on the road? I mean, are there not a lot more issues that you could find? What do they tell you? You should pick your battles, folks. Mary Ashonti, you just embarrassed yourself. You just made yourself look horrible for what you did. Rudy Kane, you wrote a very similar letter to the county council. You should be just as shamed as Mary Ashonti is, because you're not representing your people. That's the shame about all this. That's what cracks me up about the whole thing, is that, you know, if you want to represent your people, you pick your battles, you step in and you do it when it's right. You don't sit there and support one Democrat to another and use the race card when you really don't need it. That, to me, just shows your stupidity in this entire thing. I know. Now everybody's going to call me a racist because I disagree with black people on a particular issue. So, go figure. Nevertheless, let's continue on this subject, but let's switch gears and go from the county to the city. Okay? Let's talk about Ivan Barkley and Jim Ireton, and let's bring in Lorraine Chambers into this whole thing, and even John Pick. Okay? Here we go, talking now. Jim Ireton, forgive me, is talking about furloughs for the Salisbury Police Department. He just brought forth information in reference to extending Chief Barkley's interim police chief position for another 6 months. Jim, make up your mind, man. Start acting like a man in this job and do it right. Okay? You're playing games with the Salisbury Fire Department. Now you're playing games again with the Salisbury Police Department. Why don't you publicly poll the council members and see how they feel about a permanent chief-in-chief Barkley? Okay? Because some of us are questioning the game of whether or not you're trying to get Ernie Leatherberry in there and draw out this paperwork so that Ivan's in there for the next 6 months or a few months. But bottom line is, no extensions. Let's get this out on the table. Let's make it public, Jim. No harm here, you know, but let's get to the bottom. Quit hiding and playing these games, man. Just get out there and tell people why this is happening. That would be the right thing to do. Now, in reference to the furloughs, get rid of Lorraine Chambers and no furloughs for the police officers. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you could hire a new police officer and not furlough anybody just by getting rid of Lorraine Chambers. Now, I mentioned John Pick earlier. Here's a twist question for you, folks. How is it okay for Jim Ireton as mayor of Salisbury to have Lorraine Chambers on his staff and John Pick on his staff, yet it's not okay for Rick Pollitt to have Jim Finneran? I want you to think about that, folks, because you're throwing away more money in Luray Chambers and John Pick than you are in Jim Finneran, and the county's got one heck of a lot bigger budget than the city does. So let's think about that. Let's talk about it. Folks, I appreciate you being here. As always, I appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you again this coming Wednesday. Take care. Have a good evening. Good night, folks.